Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Home at last. It's not unusual for passengers to applaud when the wheels of an aeroplane touch Jamaican soil, but the cheers that erupted Wednesday evening on board the return flight from Frankfurt had added meaning. They signaled the safe arrival of 20 Jamaican students who days earlier had escaped war-ravaged Ukraine. I wasn't able to see the students because they were not sitting in the same section that I sat, but overall, it was a cool flight, no complaints, reported one person. There was actually applaud when the plane landed. From early evening, anticipation ran high among staff at Kingston International Airport, many expressing well wishes for the students and praising the Jamaican government for bringing them home. Among those who warmly welcomed the return of the students was Paul Nelson, a red-cap porter at the airport. I am extremely delighted to know that our students are coming home. As a red cap, I should lift my hat to give thanks to the Father for his blessings to get these kids home. I know their parents must be as elated as I am, Nelson reported. Ground transportation operator Steve Spence, who was equally in high spirit, he praises on the government for making arrangements to get the Jamaican students out of the war zone. It was good for the government to send for the kids, because if they remain there, we don't know what could have happened. We could lose them or something bad could have happened to them. But for them to come here, I think it is one of the best things for them, Spence stated. The transport operator said he dreaded what could have happened to the students if they had become trapped in the European country as the war progressed. The shelling could get them traumatized and they could even be physically harmed. As a parent myself, if my child was among the students, I would have loved for them to get back here, that me can't see them. I would be eager to see them. You can't be comfortable if you leave your child behind, he said. Gladstone Sinclair, a parental representative, said he empathized with the students who were looking for opportunities and he could understand why they left in the first place. The students' arrival was tightly managed by the Foreign Affairs Ministry and only the Jamaican Information Service allowed inside SIA. 19 from among the group of 20 students were whisked away in a waiting bus about 8:30 p.m. Arrangements had been made to expedite through ways the usual immigration and customs procedures. One student who exited the airport through the arrival door was greeted by her mother and a sibling who tenderly embraced her. She was then quickly whisked away by her family, a policeman and the security manager at MBJ Airport Limited, operators of SIA. The students returned with bittersweet for Nicole Sr., who expressed belief that her niece had returned home safely, but regretted that her studies had to be cut short. For me, it's just relief to know that she is safe and back on Jamaican soil. It was a traumatic experience, but right now my mind is being applied to what will the government do for them to resume their education, she said. To have your dreams of a better life snatched out of your hand is not easy. So I need to find out from the Minister of Foreign Affairs what options are being explored. My issue is that all these students went away with one objective, that was to get an education, to get a better life, and to come back to Jamaica to make their contribution, she added. She is hoping the government will arrange for students, especially those in their final year, to continue their studies as soon as possible. I hear the Minister of Foreign Affairs saying that she'll be looking at schools around the region and the University of the West Indies to see if it can be accommodated. I know that the students who were on their last year of study, yes, they will prioritize those, and I understand that. But I think that UWI must make some accommodation for those students right now, Senior urged. They will now have their transcript. They will not have anything, but because they're in their final years, shows that they have reached a level of competence so they can accept those students without question. It is their duty. She added, for students in different years of study, especially for first year, my niece was in first year, it was just beginning, some concession must be made. UWI is our premier institution. Yes, the funds were not there for them, but these students have been traumatized, and the fact that they are no longer pursuing their dreams on their own terms, where they can afford it, means that something has to be done for them. The students who had gone to Ukraine to study medicine found themselves in the middle of a deadly war after Russia launched a full-scale military invasion on Ukraine on February 24, 2022. After taking cover in a bunker in the capital city, the students recalled hearing multiple explosions. Hours later, they boarded a train that took them to live in western Ukraine. They were to be transported to the Polish border by bus, but the plan was disrupted, forcing them to walk for hours to an agreed border across point. Throughout the journey, the students experienced bitter cold, with temperature as low as 3 degrees Celsius. 2 students eventually became ill, one because of the cold. They finally crossed the border on February 28. Family heartbroken at Graveside as ex-cop's casket too big for burial plot. The burial of the late retired traffic cop had to be postponed on Tuesday as gravediggers were unable to fit the man's casket into the plot at the Tuffield Park Cemetery in Old Harbour, St. Catherine. Family members of retired Police Sergeant Devon Edwards Sr., who died in January, watched in horror at Graveside as funeral workers tried in vain to lower his coffin into where was supposed to have been his final resting place. Devon Edwards Jr., the son of the deceased, said the family was heartbroken over what transpired and is laying the blame squarely on the authorities. My father's body came from overseas. The size of the casket is apparently too large for the hole. We were not told at the parish council. Nobody asked what size or whatsoever. So, once we got here, he could not fit, Edwards Jr. reported at the graveside. He alleged that the matter was made worse when funeral workers attempted to instead provide the family with another plot that had not been prepared. First and foremost, they are trying to give us another hole that is not even prepared. They just want us to put him in there like he's an animal, which he is absolutely not. My father is a very orderly man. He was a police officer for 30-something years, Edwards Jr. stated. A Teford Park Cemetery representative distanced the facility from the mix-up. We just follow orders, but when the casket came, it was an oversized casket, so it can't go into the single hole, said the woman who refused to state her name. It says you are supposed to prepare a single, and when you say single, that means single regular. If it's single large, it would say that, she continued. An oversized casket cannot go into a regular singles. That's why we always ask the family to ask the funeral directors to give them instructions with the size of the casket. The family planned to reschedule Edward's Sr. burial for Thursday morning. We are going to the parish council, get a new hole, pay the extra fee, and they're going to dig him a different hole, and we're going to reschedule for Thursday morning at 9 a.m., Edwards said. He said the family should be compensated for the mishap. There is a lot of oversight. In the U.S., this would never happen. People need to do their jobs. Everybody is too lackadaisical. The system is broken in every manner in this country, he said. 3 teens charged with elderly man's murder. 3 teens have been charged with the murder of 62-year-old fisherman Delroy Walters, who was killed at his home in St. Elizabeth on Tuesday, February 22nd. Reports from the Black River Police are that about 6 a.m., a relative of Walters went to his home in Galleon Beach District and found that the house had been broken into. Checks were made, and Walters was reportedly seen lying on his bed with wounds to his body. Walters was assisted to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. The police said the teens were implicated in the investigation that followed, and on Tuesday, March 1, they were charged following a question and answer session in the presence of their parents and attorneys. Arrangements are being made for them to appear in the St. Elizabeth Family Court. Body of man found with hands, feet bound in Ensom City. The St. Catherine North Police are probing the death of a man whose body was found with his hands and feet bound on Tuesday on a plain field in Ensom City, Spanish Town. Dead is Ian Robinson of Old Harbour, St. Catherine. Reports are that shortly after 7 a.m., residents stumbled upon the body on a plain field close to the Ensom City Community Center. The police were alerted and the body was removed to the morgue. While some residents reported hearing gunshots in the area on Monday night, investigators are awaiting the result of a post-mortem to determine Robinson's cause of death. Scores protest against leasing of parking lot used by Danny's Marina restaurant. There was a protest in front of the Danny's Marina Seafood restaurant in Harborview, Kingston on Ash Wednesday, as scores of people voiced their disapproval with the authorities to lease the lot used as a parking area by the restaurant to a gas station operator. Restaurant owner Donnie Davis says the move will cripple his operation, leave him out of business, and also leave his employees out of a job. "It is unjust. If I don't have a car park, me not have no business. Them come here come see me and use the property," Davis said. He claimed he had applied for the lease some years ago and was told that he would have been given the contract, only to learn that another applicant was given it instead. The restaurant owner said several efforts by him to reach out to the government for help have failed. Man charged in 2019 East Kingston murder. Detectives in the Kingston Eastern Division have cracked a cold case that has been under investigation for more than 2 years. On Tuesday, 22-year-old Daniel Williams, otherwise called Noah, a construction worker of Benedict Heights, Harborview in Kingston 17, was charged with the 2019 murder of Ron Roberts, also of Benedict Heights. Reports from the Harborview Police are that on May 19, 2019, about 8:55 p.m., Roberts was standing in his community when Williams and 2 other men allegedly opened gunfire at him, killing him. The men escaped on foot in the area. Williams was identified by one of the attackers, and he was subsequently arrested. He was charged on Tuesday, March 1, after a question and answer session. St. Mary man charged with murder. 35-year-old Brandon Campbell of Ruston District, Islington in St. Mary, has been charged with the murder of Swain Lawton, which was committed on Saturday, February 26. Reports are that about 2:30 a.m., Lawton was walking home when he was attacked and stabbed to the upper body. Lawton collapsed and was taken to hospital where he died. Campbell fled the scene but was subsequently arrested at his home in the same community. He was charged on Tuesday, March 1. Phone thief nabbed in downtown Kingston. An alleged phone thief who was nabbed by an off-duty policeman in downtown Kingston on Tuesday, March 1, has been charged. He is 37-year-old Junior Blair of Crescent Road address in Kingston. Reports from the Central Police are that about 4:30 p.m., a man was conducting business along King Street when he was pounced upon by 3 men. One of the men robbed him of his Samsung A30 cellular phone valued at US $200 and 3,000 Jamaican dollars. An off-duty policeman saw the incident unfolding, intervened, and nabbed Blair. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.